Well, welcome. Today we're going to talk about the 5 major problems leaders face and how to solve them. I've learned that people only solve problems when they fully comprehend the truth of the situation. So if you stay until the end of this webinar, what I'm going to show you is a tool that will eliminate conflict in your life once and for all. Give you the courage to ask the real questions, and it'll help you to develop yourself into the full potential leader that you can be. So I want to encourage you, if you've got your phone near you, emails or Instagram that are going to pop open, I want to ask you for this next few minutes if you can close them down just for the next little while. Because what I'm looking for is your attention as well as your intention. And if you're not putting the intention towards your leadership journey, then you won't get as much out of this information. So if you can do that for me, that would be fantastic. So I want to introduce myself. I had my first mentor when I was 21 years old. His name was Mr. Zollinger. He had the 6th share in Coca-Cola and was an incredible influence on my life. What he encouraged me to do was to master business models and then overlay business ethics and business morals around them to be able to create something unique. So I went on and I joined Flight Centre Limited at a time that company was growing globally at more than 200% per quarter. So I was part of an entrepreneurial group that were being fast-tracked through leadership. And from there, after 5 years, I had a turnover of $7 million combined, 2 share-owned stores, as many share options as I could get my hand on, and I exited the rat race forever. At 27, I was poached by the world's largest business coaching company. From there, I went on to develop 90 clients, 11 coaches. I was a global coaches coach, and we worked across multiple different cultures as well as many countries to be able to work out what were the best ways to be able to grow profit within business. I sold that business and started Leisure Seekers. I started to realize that leaders that were becoming rich weren't necessarily becoming wealthy and joy-filled and healthy along the way. And so when I created Leisure Seekers, it was really to be able to help handpick leaders that I felt wanted a more holistic definition of success. So I want you to imagine a future where you live your life on your terms, celebrated by a collaborative team who clearly understand and execute their roles with both joy and simplicity. In fact, I want you to foresee a time where you're the most authentic version of yourself, where you can easily remove blockages that cause unjust structures like hatred, exploitation, self-centeredness, because this tool is going to transform cultures from one of competition or confrontation to one of collaboration. You see, when we think about the one thing that I want you to focus on, it's how can we collaborate without confrontation? And to me, there are 5 problems. Because if we think about problems in terms of what we need to overcome, we can suddenly see opportunity. And the first problem that I've faced, and certainly I've seen many leaders face, is one of absolute confusion and overwhelm. You see, if you're confused and overwhelmed by so much information, who do you trust to make sure that the effort that you're putting in will ever deliver any tangible results in your life? You're really looking for work-life balance, but you're struggling to get it all together at the same time. Confusion and overwhelm seem to go hand in hand when you're in business. There's so much information out there, information that's meant to help, but it actually only ends up making everything really cloudy. Everyone seems to be an expert, so who do you trust? How do you help deliver tangible results to your team, as well as get those results to give you a better work-life blend, and then be able to enable all those roles to transform in your life? For 10 years, I've coached a brand that's scaling globally at the moment. In the beginning, the owners simply couldn't scale their business because they had no system, they had no loyal team, and they had absolutely no time. Within 12 weeks of our program, we had clarity on the business foundation. Within 12 months, we'd created a loyal team. And then within 5 years, they were fully franchised and able to scale globally. With clarity, it's really important that we get to know who's doing what by when. The second major problem that I see is leaders drained of energy. Often past mistakes linger. You erode your confidence, and then it's seemingly tainting everything you touch. Being angry at what life throws at you is tiring, and it actually drains your energy. Wouldn't you rather focus your energy on creating more powerful results? I mean, put it this way, would you rather put out fires or grow a forest? I see conflict in teams draining energy that impacts on personal time and, in fact, personal health as a major issue right now for leaders that we have to face in this fast-paced world. You can be at home and a memory can pop up and instantly trigger anger. Learning how to create healthy, empowered boundaries and clear communication will help you to forgive yourself and forgive others. That's something that has been a real lesson for me, is learning how to express whatever emotion's coming up, even if it is anger, to be able to maintain my energy source. You see, as leaders, you only have a portion of energy given to you every single day. Once that's gone, it's gone. So it's a real problem in our society when we're being drained of energy. The third problem that I really identified is that people have lost their power. Sometimes it feels like you're constantly under siege or you're going off to fight a battle every day. Sometimes the bullies are coming from below. Sometimes it's from above. Sometimes it's from a home environment. I think there's a lot of competitiveness in the workplace. And so therefore that can create competitiveness in your own head. And sometimes it seems like we're just trying to survive. But I really think that life is more than just surviving. I think you know it too. You know it can be better, but you're just not sure how to make it so. The key thing that I realized is, I could be coaching all day and have absolute clarity on my roles and what it is that I'm doing. I come home and I've got 3 kids, and one comment can absolutely unravel all the posture that I just had. So if you're like me and you've got multiple roles, perhaps married, with kids, community, influencer, friends, it's incredibly difficult to be able to maintain power when we're not being authentic. And we're not allowed to be authentic. And so for those people that perhaps have triggers that set them off, then it's really important to understand who's in which role at which time. I've had an example where I've had a trigger at work where I might be feeling fantastic because I've made a sale, and then my finance team can't process that. Or I haven't got the right leverage in my operating team, and I can go from empowered to disempowered in seconds. The next major problem that I see is lack of courage. Speaking out, if that fills you with fear, that knee-knocking, stomach-clenching, sweat-inducing fear, then that's a problem. Fear of being seen is another problem. I think with the days of social media, putting yourself out there can be really, really frightening. What about just standing out? If your power's being blocked, then it's going to leach your courage. So the real issues that you're facing will always be left unresolved. And so when we think about the companies where the team will come to me and they'll tell me things one-on-one, but they refuse to mention them within a team meeting, or they won't bring that situation up when they're faced with the leader, there is a challenge there that you can't confront a situation without the courage to be able to articulate it. And that's a big problem as we're trying to build collaborative teams. If somebody's proper self-image is lacking and they don't have the courage to be able to voice what the real issue is, and then it can create collusion within teams because they'll go and talk to other sources that have no influence or no power to be able to change the situation. And that is a major problem. The 5th problem that we identify is feeling powerless or undervalued. When you think that feeling of powerlessness can affect all aspects of your life, but if you don't know what tools to use to change that, or if it feels like you're banging your head against a brick wall, then that can become really frustrated. What tools can you use to help yourself and others when you're struggling or when you see someone else struggling? What about when you're a victim? You become an easy target, and so not having the power to act or the power of belief and the courage to change can make a big difference around the future of the situation you're facing. I've bought into companies where we start to recognize that the newest person can often see what the solution is because they haven't been tainted with some limiting beliefs that older participants of the team have been, but then they're treated as an undervalued team member and their comments aren't taken seriously. And so, they then feel overwhelmed because in their opinion it hasn't been noted, and so then they don't speak up. When we undervalue or we feel undervalued, we start to recognize that we can't get our communication flowing. I think it was Alvin Toffler that said the illiterate of the 21st century is not going to be people who can't read and write. It's going to be people who can't learn, unlearn, and relearn. And I think when it comes to this issue of undervalued, it's about relearning that perhaps the tone in which we spoke, the timing in which we spoke, or the pace in which we spoke wasn't being received. And so it's relearning how to communicate to be able to move ourselves forward. And so by identifying that there's some major problems, for me as a coach for the last 15 years, I have really been focused on creating a solution. You see, after 10 years of solving problems with leaders, I started to see that all the best solutions came through collaboration, yet no one was teaching the skills to collaborate. So I started doing that. I even changed my name to Collaborate, and I'd go into companies that were affected by issues and identify a group of like-minded entrepreneurs who could sit around the leader to be able to assess what the collective knowledge was. And boy, could we see how quickly we could solve their challenges. What I really want to explain to you is, why EpiCollective solves these 5 problems. Firstly, it builds trust faster than any other tool I've seen in the market. I believe that removing confusion and overwhelm comes from us owning our expertise and being valued for our opinions. You see, it gives energy to challenges because our aim is to remove the blockages. And so the first activity that each of the team does is to fill in some post-it notes. Now, we get them assuming that they own the business. And if they were to own the business, what do they identify straight away as the 3 biggest challenges that business is facing? Now, from their perspective, let's say it's a sales manager, they might see that there's a pipeline challenge with conversion rates. And so that's going to dry up cash flow, which is going to mean we're not going to make our targets and we'll have to let go of team, as an example. So from their unique perspective, they can give feedback, quality information that can feed back to you, the leader. Now, if you have, let's say in your team, 8, 10 influencers, you might bring in your lawyer, your accountant, your business coach, your HR manager, your sales manager, your marketing manager. Now, consider the fact that each person has a unique perspective of your business. If they owned that business, they would then identify those 3 blocks. We then categorize those blocks across it's a matrix of 8 by 8. You see, there's 8 aspects of business that if you are a business owner, you cannot expect to be across each of these. You see, I was trained with a double major in psychology at the University of Queensland. No lecture set me up as a business owner within the psychology space. I didn't do one lecture on cash flow, how to manage debtors, how to be able to set up a website, none of that. See, the whole degree was based around the operational skill of my individual expertise. The same is true if you've studied to become a lawyer, if you've studied to become an accountant. Nowhere there does it create that collaborative framework to be able to identify across all these 64 aspects of business. And so the opportunity that EpiCollective brings is a trusted group of advisors who sit over the top of your regular advisors. So the tool's designed to be able to say who's auditing your lawyer, who's asking better questions of your accountant. You as the business owner then become the student. And we can't expect you to be everywhere all the time within your business. And so this tool helps you when you enter into meetings to get clarity on the roles and the positions of what it is that the challenges you're facing. The next lot of post-it notes we get them to fill in is a different colour, a coloured post-it note on where they truly see the one biggest opportunity that's being missed within this business. And so as a leader, you're able to both work on two aspects. We work from the left to the right because let's face it, if there's a fire, do we fight fires downwind or do we have to get upwind from the fire? So by identifying the questions that haven't been thought of that created that fire in the first place, we now can create a system and people can follow systems. And so it's a management tool as well as a recruitment tool as well as a leadership tool. Essentially, everyone's given power to participate and to find their voice. So as the questions are applied in sequence, leaders learn to be courageous by contemplating questions that precede the blockage, and then they start to understand a much, much bigger picture. Now everybody is valued within the process. I used this just last week with an incredible team of leaders. There was 13 in the room, and it allowed the newest person to be able to identify a diversification strategy that had never been talked about before. You know, it's really important that we understand finding our voice is what gender equality has all been about. I know with this whole movement of understanding male versus female is sometimes confusing and sometimes challenging for people. But as a female leader, you know, I have a strong masculine energy inside of me that must be balanced with a feminine energy. And so when we're leaders in a business, it's important that everybody balances their internal energy and then is appropriately collaborating around the table. So we're almost getting the micro energy aligned with the macro strategy. And that one thing has changed the energy of corporate culture, whether it's been working through economic development, state government, non-for-profits, which I really believe should be profit-for-purpose businesses. You know, what's the purpose of the business? And just helping people to see that as much as a strategy is involved in growing a business, if people don't know, like, and trust each other and know how to find their voice, then the sequence of the strategy that you're trying to get them makes no sense because they haven't got the truth of what the true block is. So what I'd love to offer you today is a 2-day training valued at $6,600 per person. This is a full understanding of your EpiCollective model, and of course you're going to get your very own EpiCollective board to take away with you. It's going to include the 6 different ways that we can use this model, use it for induction or for team meetings, management strategy, as well as problem solving. The bonus that I would like to offer you today is that you can bring an extra person of your team to this training. Now, I'm not going to charge you $13,000, but I want to ask you this one question. If all the EpiCollective training did was put you on a pathway to clarity, allowing your team meetings to start to work in synergy with a plan that was proven to improve collaboration, would it be worth it? Today, I'd love to offer you that EpiCollective training for $6,600. It's going to include the 2-day training for 2 people, your very own board so that you can start to initiate your team and use it straight away. And I want you to know that you say goodbye to confusion and overwhelm as a leader. Expand your power and gain control. Sooner or later, leaders will see that true collaboration starts with identifying obstacles and removing blockages whilst maximising opportunities. Money replenishes, but time waits for no one. The real lesson Mr. Zollinger taught me at 21 is we get to start with the end in mind, get the thinking right so you live a life of no regrets. I sincerely call for all collaborative leaders to attend this 2-day training, to join us today to master the skills to lead more effectively.